I never imagined my parents' 25th wedding anniversary would become the day that shattered our family's foundation. The memory of that evening remains vivid in my mind, like a film playing in slow motion, each moment etched with painful clarity. The celebration was held at the Grand Maple Hotel, where my father had proposed to my mother all those years ago. The ballroom sparkled with silver and white decorations, crystal centerpieces catching the light from overhead chandeliers. Nearly 200 guests filled the space. Family members, close friends, colleagues, and neighbors who had witnessed my parents' journey through the years. My younger sister Rachel had spent months planning every detail, from the three-tiered anniversary cake to the photo montage that played on screens around the room. The images showed my parents' story, their college romance, their wedding day, the births of their 3 children, family vacations, and countless moments of everyday joy. Looking back now, the irony of those carefully curated memories makes my heart ache. I watched my mother that evening, radiant in her silver evening gown, her salt and pepper hair elegantly styled. At 52, she carried herself with the same grace that had drawn my father to her in their university days. She moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations and sharing laughs with old friends. My father, distinguished in his tailored suit, stayed close to the bar. The warning signs were there, though we didn't recognize them at the time. His hands trembled slightly as he lifted his glass, and his laugh carried a nervous edge I'd never heard before. My older brother Mark, always the observant one, later told me he'd noticed Dad checking his phone compulsively, his face tightening each time he read a message. Dinner had just been served when Dad stood up, clinking his glass for attention. The room gradually fell silent, all eyes turning to him. Mom smiled up at him expectantly, probably anticipating one of his characteristically charming speeches. None of us were prepared for what came next. "I have something I need to say," he began, his voice unsteady. "Margaret, these 25 years..." He paused, swallowing hard. "I haven't been the man you thought I was. I haven't been faithful." The silence in the room deepened, becoming oppressive. I heard someone's fork clatter against a plate, the sound unnaturally loud in the stillness. "There have been others," he continued, words tumbling out now as if he couldn't stop them. 3 relationships over the years. The most recent, she's pregnant. I watched my mother's face drain of color, her hands gripping the edge of the table so tightly her knuckles turned white. Aunt Susan, her older sister, reached for her shoulder, but Mom shrugged off the touch. "I couldn't keep living this lie," Dad went on, his eyes fixed on some point in the distance. "Not today. Not when everyone's here celebrating what a perfect marriage we supposedly have." The room erupted in murmurs and gasps. I saw phones being pulled out, some people already recording the unfolding disaster. Rachel, seated at my left, began to cry silently. Mark stood up so abruptly his chair toppled backward. Mom's voice, when it came, cut through the chaos like a blade. 25 years, she said, each word precise and controlled. 25 years, and you choose to do this here? In front of everyone we know? She stood slowly, dignity in every movement. "I gave you my youth, my trust, my love. I bore your children. I supported your career. And you repay me with public humiliation?" Her voice never raised above a conversational level, but it carried to every corner of the stunned room. Then she did something I'll never forget. She smiled, a small, sad smile that spoke volumes, and addressed the room. "I apologize to everyone for this unexpected entertainment. Please, enjoy the rest of your evening. The food is excellent, and there's plenty of champagne." With that, she walked out of the ballroom, her heels clicking against the marble floor in perfect rhythm. The aftermath was chaos. Mark confronted Dad, their shouting match drawing more unwanted attention. Rachel ran after Mom. I stood frozen, watching our family implode in real time while social media notifications started pinging on phones around the room. The following weeks were a blur of revelations and decisions. We learned that Dad's most recent affair had been with a 32-year-old executive at his firm. The other 2 relationships had been with a neighbor and a client, both spanning several months each. Each disclosure felt like a fresh wound. Our family splintered in ways I never expected. Mark, always Dad's golden boy, cut all contact with him. He couldn't forgive the public nature of the confession, calling it an act of calculated cruelty. Rachel, surprisingly, became Dad's defender. "At least he finally told the truth," she'd say. "He's still our father." I found myself caught in the middle, trying to support Mom while grappling with my own feelings of betrayal and confusion. The father I'd known, the man who coached my soccer teams, who taught me to drive, who cried at my college graduation, seemed like a stranger now. Mom handled everything with remarkable strength, though I knew she was breaking inside. She threw herself into her work as a pediatrician, took up yoga, and started seeing a therapist. But sometimes, late at night, I'd find her in the kitchen, staring at old family photos with tears running down her face. The hardest part was watching her navigate the social aftermath. Living in a small suburban community meant that everyone knew. Some friends quietly disappeared, uncomfortable with the scandal. Others chose sides, creating awkward divisions in our once tight social circle. Mom faced it all with her head held high, though I knew each sympathetic look and whispered conversation cut deep. 3 months after the anniversary party, Mom filed for divorce. Dad didn't contest anything, giving her the house and a generous settlement. Perhaps it was guilt, or perhaps he was too preoccupied with his new life. His girlfriend was indeed pregnant with twins. The most unexpected development came from my brother Mark. One evening, he showed up at Mom's house with boxes of old family videos and photos. He'd spent weeks digitizing them, carefully editing out Dad's presence where possible. "We need new memories," he explained, "ones that celebrate who we really are, not who we pretended to be." That night, the three of us, Mark, Rachel, and I, sat with Mom, watching rediscovered moments of just the four of us. Beach trips, birthday parties, school plays. Rachel cried again, but this time they were healing tears. She finally understood why Mark had been so angry, seeing the contrast between the genuine joy in those private moments and the calculated deception that had underlaid our family's public image. A year has passed since that devastating anniversary party. Mom has started dating again. Tentatively, she sees a kind-hearted widower who makes her laugh in a way I haven't heard in years. Rachel has reconciled with Mark, though their relationships with Dad remain complicated. The twins were born 4 months ago, our half-siblings, though none of us have met them yet. Dad lives across town with his new family. He sends emails sometimes, trying to explain, to apologize, to maintain some connection with his first family. Most go unanswered. Not out of hatred, but because we're all still learning who we are without the weight of his secrets. The anniversary party video never made it to social media, though we know copies exist. Sometimes I wonder if Dad's public confession was an act of courage or cowardice. Was it a desperate bid for honesty, or did he choose that moment precisely because it would burn all bridges, leaving him free to start fresh? What I've learned through all this is that family isn't just about blood or shared history. It's about choice. The daily choice to love, to support, to forgive, or to walk away. Mom chose to rise above the humiliation and rebuild her life. Mark chose to channel his anger into protecting what remained of our family unit. Rachel chose to find forgiveness, though not acceptance. And I chose to remember both versions of my father, the man who loved us and the man who betrayed us, because both shaped who I am today. The walls of our family home no longer display the professional portraits of perfect family harmony. Instead, there are candid shots of real moments. Mom and Mark cooking together, Rachel teaching me to knit, all of us laughing at some forgotten joke. These pictures tell a different story, one of resilience, of love that survives even when the fairy tale ends. Last week, Mom took down her wedding ring, which had been hanging on a chain around her neck since the divorce. She held it for a long moment, then placed it in a small box with other memories from that chapter of her life. 25 years wasn't a lie, she told me. It just wasn't the whole truth, and now we get to write our own endings. I think about that anniversary party sometimes, how one moment can change everything you thought you knew. But I also think about what came after, the strength we found, the bonds that grew stronger, the truth that finally set us all free, even if freedom came at a terrible price. This is our story now, not the one we planned, but the one we're living. And maybe that's the most honest anniversary gift we could have received.